Is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean78904 if you want to get all technical on me. That is the DFS handle around the industry. 5:30 on the dot on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So, of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, it's a very intimate show, despite the fact we have a 14-game slate. It's just the two of us. It's myself and Chief Justice Will. You get to hear me complain pre-show. I'm very upset at the potential pending weather for the Mets today. Jacob deGrom is throwing baseballs, and Kevin Roth just gave an update, and we'll talk about it in a second. I should say hello. Well, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Good, man. Everything's going fine. So everyone, if you want to know why Dean was so upset before the show, is his dial-up internet was just not working at all. House phone was ringing. He had to get on his rotary phone to call Spectrum or Comcast.
AOL.
His TV still has numbered buttons on it. I kid. But it should be a good slate. He is absolutely tilted about this Jacob deGrom situation in New York, which I'm sure we will get into. Don't get mad at us. Get mad at Kevin Roth, your friendly neighborhood weatherman, because he's going to be the one delivering this Power Pack news. At any rate, I'm excited about this slate. Should be fun. I think there's a lot of good pitching, despite Dean thinking the only good pitcher is Jacob deGrom. And that's how this show is going to go today. It's going to be the field versus Dean and Jacob deGrom.
Well, we'll talk about it. But
welcome to the show.
There's a lot of good pitchers like that I don't necessarily want to pick on, but the prices are all kind of sort of wrong. There's like an inflation all over the place in a lot of these pitchers, and we'll dig into it. So who did you throw? Like Eovaldi is over 10K. Merrill Kelly's been fine of late, facing a terrible Colorado team, but he's 9K. Oh, I mean that's got to be the highest price Merrill Kelly's ever been. But we may have to adjust. We'll see. You want to see what Roth has to say? Kevin Roth, chief mineralogist. He'll be on Crunch Time today at 6:30, along with SDL Cards and Derek Carty. They gave Cheese the day off, I guess, because he took down the squeeze yesterday. I think it was the squeeze. 30K on FanDuel. He won by like 18 points too, like 35,000 teams, whatever it is, and he won by a homer. So congratulations to Cheese. He's not going to screenshot that.
Cheese continues to squeeze. I mean, he continues to squeeze out the cheese. It is what it is.
It was a pirate stack. It was a 4-man pirate stack.
Of course, that's what you do. Of course, that's exactly how you should have played yesterday's slate. I'm sure thousands of people on Max Fried, and there you have it.
It was I'm off the dome. It was Ben Gamble had a couple homers. Stallings had a good game. He had a couple more Pirates, and then he had a couple Phillies, and he had two. He had Ramirez one off, and maybe a Franmil, maybe a couple as well too.
I wonder if he hand-built that team. I don't think Dave would have hand-built that, but hey, who cares? The money's in his pocket. I'm not trying to count anybody else's duckies. I'm going to create my own duckies today.
It doesn't matter. It's scoreboard. It's point to the scoreboard. He's going to get paid either way. Yeah, so I went ahead and dropped a link there in chat for you guys. And I was going to say, as far as you'll get the most up-to-date update as far as weather. If you guys are premium members at Rotogrinders here, obviously Roth will tell you what's going on at 6:30. This is an hour before that, 5:35, and we have an update as far as the weather, and he'll know more in an hour. That's just how that works. And at 7 o'clock, he'll know even more, and he'll give you guys the update at 7 o'clock right before lock and tell you guys, his best guess, his best lean, and sort of position you to like make your own guesses and make your own wagers on, if if it's worth the risk as far as deGrom. But yeah, it's currently orange, yellow. Looks like 2 waves of potential rain. The first almost definitely hits New York, but also likely clears before the first pitch. So the second line may miss the ballpark entirely. It's going to be close, but it's set to arrive in game. So yeah, you guys can read the rest of that in your leisure. There's a whole paragraph here, but
can I touch on something here before we get
please.
started? I'm gonna go ahead and give this out early. Usually we get this in the middle of the show, during pitching or during the stacks. I want to get this out of the way. So on Prize Picks today, I feel like we have a couple freebies in the fantasy score department. Prize Picks uses FanDuel scoring for pitching, and we've got Nathan Eovaldi coming in at a fantasy score of 28 fantasy points on FanDuel.
Too low.
I think that's way too low. So, of course, I'm hammering the over there. And then we have another one that now this one's a little bit different. I actually caught it earlier this morning. So I think I caught it at 31, but it's up at 32. And that's Louis Castillo against Kansas City. That one you may not feel as great about, but Kansas City's just, man, they're just struggling in the strikeout department. So that's another one that I like. And then this one's going to get real interesting real quick. I actually still like Merrill Kelly over 32 fantasy points, even though it's Colorado. It's been pitching really well at home. Don't hate it. Last but not least, this one's going to be for basketball. I'm taking Chris Paul today under 41.5 fantasy points. I'm a big believer in Drew Holiday defense overall. And so typically, and I want to say, let's say 75, 80% of the time, if you take the unders on point guards at their fantasy point score facing Drew Holiday, it typically works out. So I'm taking the under on 41.5 on Chris Paul. I know that's not baseball, but I'm telling you, that one felt really good this morning as I looked over these props. I also took the over on 28.5 for Brooke Lopez against Mr. DeAndre Ayton in hopes that Giannis does indeed sit. I know he was doubtful, went to questionable. Anyway, I know those are basketball ones, but I want to give those out to the people early. All right, Dean, we're back on track here.
I'm hopeful that Giannis plays, like you said, the midday upgrade, from doubtful to questionable. And if you watch that play, I'm sure you saw the play, and you don't want to watch too many times, especially if you're squeamish, but I didn't think he would come back this fast. But obviously it's the finals, and the internet doctors are surprised as well too, for what it's worth. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that series, and I want to see Giannis do really well. I'm somebody that actually believes that Giannis is good at basketball. I know it's like a hot take to some people.
Listen,
people are absurd, but yeah.
Giannis is fine. Here's what I like about Giannis. On a 14-game set, I can't believe we're talking about Giannis, but Giannis isn't like one of those complacent basketball players, right? He's not Ben Simmons, and I'm not saying Ben Simmons is complacent. I'm saying Ben Simmons refuses to try to shoot jump shots. At least with Giannis, he's going to work on it, and I think his jump shooting is going to improve long term. Because guess what? As your athleticism dwindles,
it better.
Right. The shot tends to get better and better. Kobe, LeBron, MJ, your mid-range tends to get better. Dare I say, and this is going to be controversial for some people, Blake Griffin got a lot better at shooting as his athleticism has dwindled. It's a natural part of the game. And so I think Giannis will absolutely get better.
All right, we'll talk some baseball now. Yeah, if you guys want some basketball content, that's one reason to get the RG Premium. You can get one sport, just baseball, but we're having basketball videos out there basically every single day. Means is still writing his articles, still the expert survey. That stuff is all up there on the site. Get yourself $10 off the first month if you want to do just one sport, or you want to get all the sports. Either way, we'll go ahead and drop the link in chat for you guys. Like, do we have to give analysis on why to play DeGrom? Like, if the weather is good and like you feel like they're going to get it in, like he's a phenomenal play, right? Like, what's to say? And the price is still not absurd. It's like we always say like how he's distinctly better. Like he's number one and he's distinctly better than two. He's the Joey Chestnut of throwing baseballs. We could say that, right? Is that reasonable? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we don't have to tell you to play DeGrom. He's in a good spot against Milwaukee. I'm not going to tell anyone to not play DeGrom. Although I did not play DeGrom the last slate for various reasons, and everybody knew those reasons. And guess what? It happened exactly the way I thought it would, outside of him getting 14 strikeouts after giving up 3 runs. And guess what? I'm okay with that. Still was a profitable day. The Cincinnati Reds were playing that day, if I'm not mistaken, and they were absolutely fine. That's one for the chat. my boy is in there bothering us about the Reds, and they ended up scoring 5 or 6 runs that day. Got a couple homers out of it. Jonathan India keeps, running around the base paths every time he gets a chance. So anyway,
He's
that's
back
where
tonight,
I
by the
think
way.
we're at. Oh yeah, I know. That was a big part of my Cincinnati Reds interest. If he was back today, I'm back in on the Reds. So there we go. But I do like other pitchers outside of DeGrom, Dean, because that's the only pitcher you want to play today. He'd play DeGrom if he could. And most people may have. But I actually do like Aaron Nola on both sides. I know the wind's going out there in Chicago. And, yes, I know he got rocked against Miami after doing kind of a 12K game of his own, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 11 strikeouts. But I do like him. Chicago's been struggling. He's on my list. I actually like Framber Valdez as well. He's a little bit more expensive than I want to play on both sides. But I do think he's got a fairly good spot here against Oakland. Merrill Kelly, he's at 9,200 on DK. I'm really, really, really not as excited. On FanDuel, he's 8,800. Still more expensive than what he's been. But to me, that's a lot more fair in terms of just how their scoring is. Ian Anderson, I don't care what Pittsburgh did last night, still on the list. And then Shohei Ohtani, I think, is the wild card here because we know he can go out and get the job done. He's facing a team like Boston that's not going to strike out a ton. But I always believe in a pitcher's stuff. And so when we've got a guy like Ohtani who, has the stuff, the K rate's been there. If you look this season, he's still at a 32.2% K rate and a 3.85 xFIP. The problem has just been the walks. But so if he can kind of get past that, I think we're okay. And so I'm a big believer in Ohtani in terms of what his upside is on a slate like this where you've got Castillo, Ohtani. Castillo's one of my favorites as well. Ohtani, Wainwright, kind of all in this general area. I think Jose Barrios is kind of on the outside looking in for me. And then last but not least, I do think we have an overpriced Nathan Eovaldi, but depending on what this lineup is for the Angels, it may in fact be worth it because he should have some Ks. So that's kind of where I'm at on the pitching front overall.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to see Ohtani or not. We've seen it before where, of course, he hits and pitches in the same game. But that is an interesting point to bring up. And obviously Trout's not ready just yet, and Walsh is solid, and Rendon has been up and down, but that rest of that lineup is pretty terrible. But Eovaldi, not this great K pitcher. Like if you look at WAR, he's been one of the top WAR pitchers this year, but we don't care about WAR in DFS. We care about Ks. And he doesn't. What's that?
I said, huh.
Yeah.
What is it good for? It's a reference to the song anyway.
Absolutely nothing. That's my understanding. Also, you mentioned the weather. Let's go ahead and pull up the weather edge because there's a couple games where it is popping. It's hot in New York, but you got to hit the ball for it to matter. 48 game sample size. We've seen a bump of 28% as far as homers, 14% as far as runs. Wind is blowing out to left center at 11 miles per hour. 87 is the temperature as well. It's good in Chicago today, not as amazing as it was yesterday. And those numbers are a little bit skewed because of Sogard pitching, I suppose. They hit with 3 or 4 homers in the 9th or whatever it was, a couple homers in the 9th. Shout out to Chicago, by the way. No, they're down 7. Like most teams don't do that, down 7. They'll bring in and that was Sogard's 3rd time pitching, I think, in 8 days. And he went in the IL today with a thumb. So they overworked him, I suppose. But yeah, he gave him a couple homers last night. 39.5% as far as the jump in homers in a 95 game sample of similar weather in the past. It's going to be 87, the wind blowing out directly to center at 10 miles per hour, 25% bump in runs. You mentioned Nola. I imagine you like Philadelphia. We're going to like Philadelphia, especially with some of the prices that they're going to be just kind of making things work this evening. Anything else as far as weather that's noteworthy besides the potential rain in New York? It looks like it's better in Minnesota, right? As far as earlier today.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm in on Rodon. I was trying to wait and see if I could get an update on that because I'm not going to roll him out or DeGrom if the weather's a little bit shaky. But yeah, I like that game. And then listen, let's go back to this weather edge real quick, Dean, because Kansas City and Cincinnati game, while it's not at the top of the food chain, it's still fairly good. 16.2% increase in home runs, 13.5% in total runs, 13.2% in ERA. And then the big one, I think, is, or the secondary is this game, St. Louis and San Fran, where, it's a 45 game sample, but 19.2% increase in home runs, 24.8% total runs, 26.1% ERA increase for the pitching. So I think that's another sneaky one.
So am I seeing this right? Is it 28 miles per hour to dead center and it's 59 degrees?
That is correct. The problem is we're back in 2005 here with Adam Wainwright and Johnny Cueto pitching against each other. So I don't know how this is going to fly, but we're in the
they're pitching like it's 2000. They're both been pretty reasonably decent. Like we thought those are guys we can pick on this year. They're both having career resurrections to some extent. And the tricky one is this ballpark, with the way San Fran's designed. And I know they changed some things around last year as well too. I'm not sure if that's officially changed the whole COVID. And it's on the water there. And I think the ballpark was built to sustain, because my old Candlestick was a mess as far as the wind, and this one, I don't know how to read it. Like I don't have a good thought process as far as how much wind matters in this ballpark facing. In my head, I feel like it doesn't matter a lot. Although you think
I wish we could almost show plate IQ. Because I don't think people understand the power of plate IQ sometimes. The ballpark factors are in there. Like, we used to have ballpark factors in the MLB research tab. I'm going a little bit further back now. But if you pull that up for San Francisco, like if you just go to that game, you click premium reports. Okay. And then you click context report. And then what it does is it shows you the ballpark factors, and then it gives you an idea of, the home runs, the triples, the double, and how people are hitting the ball. I mean, just fantastic stuff in this plate IQ tool. Just if you dig around a little bit, man, you see why it's kind of an all-in-one stop shop here. I mean, just beautiful being able to pick out. So it looks like in the pockets below average for home runs, but above average for singles to left field, above average for doubles and triples to right field.
Yeah, triples always a big deal there in San Fran, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much what you're getting. So while the home runs overall may be below average, hitting is good too via Dave Potts. Doubles and triples out to right field looking really tasty.
So this is the tricky one. We talked about it, and you kind of referenced it. There's several pitchers that seem overpriced. Like Framber Valdez should be fine, but he seems a little bit overpriced. By the way, you mentioned Ohtani. It's just worth noting, Ohtani not available as a pitcher on FanDuel. He's a hitter on FanDuel, and he's a pitcher on DraftKings. Just understand that. That's important. And just as a side note, we saw what happened last time. He's got the widest variance of pretty much anybody can go out there. We get banged out in the first inning, or he'd strike out 10. Neither would shock us. Maybe it's like a general Ohtani rule. It's like have one lineup with him and one lineup where you stack against them, like in every slate, just in case. You want to play both extremes. Just a thought. We do have kind of a cheap guy. There's one actual discount on DK. Problem is, he's facing the Dodgers. Pablo Lopez should not be 7.7K, and I imagine that part of that reason for that salary is because they hit him with his, that one pitch he threw against Acuna. They probably baked that into the averages or something, and of course he got kicked out because the umpires are complete morons. He wasn't throwing it. The Marlins do have a history of throwing at Acuna. They've done it on purpose before.
And Jose Urrea was the guy, but he's in Detroit now.
Yes. But it wasn't Lopez.
It was not.
That was a wild scene. I'm not sure if you saw it. And Snedeker basically convinced the umpires to throw him out despite no warning at all. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But the point is, now we have Lopez in a great ballpark at 7.7K, which is, I don't know, at least 1K, how much cheaper than he should be. But he's facing a Dodger team that's fully stocked, with the exception of Seager. So what do we do here?
I mean, I don't think I can get to it. I think I'd rather. And look, I'm not always scared of the Dodgers, right? Like I'm not that guy. But when you have Betts, Muncy, Turner, Bellinger, Will Smith has still been good. Chris Taylor's just a guy that's going to be pesky. Gavin Lux may strike out, but AJ Pollock's, I think it's enough to avoid Pablo Lopez, at least on FanDuel. On DK at 7,700, I think you can actually get away with it. But he is at home, right? Like he's not on the road. He's at home at 7,700. I think you can get away with it on DK. And I guess you have to hope and pray that they don't light him up early, right? Like if he gets through 4 innings, has given up a run, he's got 4 Ks, you might be home free. He gets to 3 innings, he's given up 5, he's done.
I don't think he gets lit up. I mean, I don't know if it's
I don't. I think at that price, I think it's very fair. I'm not playing him on FanDuel at 95. Like I'd much rather just go down to Merrill Kelly at 88. But on DK at 77, he's definitely in play for SP2. Definitely.
A couple extremes as far as umpires today. This is going to make the Toronto Baltimore game has an extreme hitters umpire. Not that you're rostering the pitchers here with Watkins and Matz, but just to make those sticks even more imposing. Extreme hitters umpire there. And Lopez has an extreme hitters umpire along with Gonsolin for what it's worth. Not ideal, but again, you're getting a bit of a discount. Louis Castillo's been better. It's hot there in KC, but he's been better of late for what it's worth. There's always that issue with the walks to kind of jump up on him, but he's got a reasonable price on DK at 8.5K. You mentioned Anderson, similar price. Nola, I like too. Of course, it is hot in Chicago, but there are Ks in that lineup, but the ball gets in the air. They can definitely bang it out. But like you said, the Ks have been there, 3 of the last 4 starts, a bunch of Ks there for him. It's, nothing I just love. And then, Wainwright has been fine, and Cueto, they've both been fine, but do we trust them to do it again? What else do we have here as far as the pitchers?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of gone through my pitchers. I don't hate Wainwright because he's been on the cutter a lot, man, and that's really what's keeping the ball on the ground. So that's why I don't hate Wainwright. Like, I don't feel like he's a guy that's going to go out and get lit up. Like, I believe in these season-long numbers right now. The numbers look exactly how I feel like they should look with Wainwright. 22% K rate, 4.15 xFIP, and he's only walking guys 6.2% of the time. 22% K rate to righties, 21% to lefties. Balls on the ground, 47% to righties, 47% to lefties. I mean, he's pretty neutral here. But the key, I mean, he's got this fastball cutter working in the middle of these other pitches. 23% to both sides. Like, he's throwing curve about equal. The only thing is he's throwing the sinker to righties 20% more. But cutter's equal. I'm telling you, that cutter it's getting him. It's keeping the ball on the ground. It's giving him a few strikeouts as well, right? Because I'm sure it looks about the same coming out of his hand as the sinker does, and they're trying to bank on it, and then lo and behold, the ball's dying on him. So I like what's happening with him. And I'm not saying he's Jacob deGrom. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the reason he's pitched well is you got a good pitch mix here. He's throwing 3 pitches about 30% of the time. And I mean, I think that's really helped him, extend his career and pitch okay in his latter years.
Like Chris Bassett's another one of those guys that's like, he's really solid, been really good this season, but the price is up and the matchup is bad. I don't see myself getting there, but I'm not necessarily looking to attack him. Just add him to the list of players that just seem a little bit too expensive. Nola does have a lineup here for Chicago that's pretty strikeout heavy. Not sure if you saw the Cubbies lineup, but we're talking about collectively 26.5% as far as striking out versus righties. Baez a big number at 37. What's that?
I love Nola today.
Yeah, I think I'm interested there as well. Like Nola and Rodon. Like if we have to move up the Grom, obviously stay tuned. See what Roth has to say. But look, Roth is gonna. Well, we'll see at 6:30. He'll give us a better picture, and 7:00 as well as far as crunch time. But if I get even a partial, of course I'm gonna have some in tournaments as far as the Grom. But cash games, who knows? We shall see. Stay tuned on that. Anything else of note as far as pitchers? The tricky thing is on DK, you kind of like to have a guy that's like 4K or 5K or 6K or 7K that you feel like okay with, and there's really nobody in that list.
Yeah, I think on DK today you spend up one and you hit the mid 8Ks. That feels like the recipe for success, in my humble opinion. That's what it looks like to me. So I think you take a deGrom and an Anderson or a Castillo or an Ohtani or a Wainwright, something of that nature. I feel like that's the way to go. Now, I didn't mention Dane Dunning against Detroit, and I'm sorry about that. I mean, I think he has some upside, but I don't think we have to do it. I'd rather just spend up and get one of these other guys I think has a little bit more upside. I will mention Ohtani again. I know it feels crazy, but Ohtani has a 30% K rate, guys. He really does. And so if Ohtani comes out, every pitcher is going to get rocked a few times this season. But most pitchers, especially high K guys, are going to have other games during the season where they look electric. And we don't know which game it's going to be when Ohtani gets 12 strikeouts. I don't know. I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is, based on the numbers, he's still pitching fine. If he gets the walks down, he's basically Aaron Nola. That's basically who he is if he gets the walks down. And I'm perfectly fine playing Aaron Nola today. And so I'm getting a 2K discount to be able to play Ohtani. And so I'm not telling you to play Ohtani. Yes, he's erratic. I get it. I'm saying for the upside, it's worth it at 8,300 if you're multi-entering. It's absolutely worth it.
I'm playing 8 lineups on DK. Ohtani will be on 1. Like that's just the way it goes. You mentioned Dunning, and like the issue with him obviously is the leash. He's a big prospect for them. Texas is going nowhere. They haven't pushed him all season long.
Well, they're going somewhere tonight, but we'll talk about that later.
Where? Well, yeah. Urania. There you go. Took me a second. But 68 pitches last time out, 85, 78, 82, 80. You're basically begging for 80 pitches, but
no different than Tony Gonsolin.
Well, I'm not playing him either. He's not pitched beyond 4 innings all season.
Yeah, I know.
Like you don't have to pick one or the other, but I understand what you're saying. But the point I was going to make there, as far as Dunning, this Detroit lineup is very, very strikeout heavy. 28.8% collectively against righties. You got Short in there in a small sample who struck out a ton. Castro, a ton of strikeouts. Rogers at 42% as far as striking out. Yeah, it's just Badu's been a nice little story, but he strikes out a ton of Scope. The only one, the mouthwash, Scope is the only one at 18.1%. Everybody else at least 22.9%. Mazzara is a big K guy. Revenge game for Mazzara. But yeah, I might find myself on some Dunning just to kind of open some stuff up. But of course, he's got a ceiling because he really can't go beyond 5 innings. But
yeah,
what else?
And in my personal opinion, I think Jonathan Scope's gone before the deadline. He's hitting too well this year for one of these contenders to just not go and scoop him up. And I could also be wrong about that, but you know how this works, right? You know, a guy from Detroit, they're just going to pull him away. Castellanos is gone. JD Martinez is gone. Scope was in Baltimore, is in Detroit. Come on, Braves, do the right thing here. Do the right thing.
Well, when Detroit is theoretically good, Scope is not on that team, is the point.
Yeah, correct. Correct.
Yeah, so there's no reason to keep him. A veteran presence or something like that. And this is like his high. He's been good. He's been good this season. How many more years does he have? So for sure, he's got to move. You got to assume he's going someplace. Give me a summary as far as the arms. We'll talk about the stacks in a second.
Yeah, I think we just spend up. So let me do this. I will say on FanDuel, I don't think there's any reason to really get outside of the top. Let's say maybe top 10 to 12. I don't hate Anderson, don't hate Castillo. Like I do think the 8K range is viable. So like Kelly, Castillo, Anderson, like those, that would kind of be my grouping there. And then Merrill Kelly, so that's 4. And then at the top, I think you start with DeGrom. If something's wrong with the game, honestly, I'm going to Aaron Nola. And I might even end up on Nola anyway because of this Cubs lineup. Nothing against DeGrom. He's electric, fantastic. But I like the savings that I get for what I feel like can be a comparable performance based on the matchup.
By the way, I would just mention Dunning at 7.5 on FanDuel. I would not play. Like he's not going to get the quality start. Then his chances of getting the win are not that. Although if he gets 5 innings, he's got a decent shot because I think we both like that Texas offense today, which is a scary proposition on a 14-game slate. But the aforementioned Urania is going to give it a go there for Detroit, and there's some lefty pop just waiting to get to him for sure. I've not seen if the roof is closed or not. I assume it is because it's basically always been closed of late. I presume it's hot in Texas, but I can't say for certain. We'll go ahead and check the old Twitter machine in a second. Stacks, your favorite stacks. Oh, you should say to chat. What up, chat? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. We appreciate that. And, keeps the proverbial lights on. Ask them questions. It's a 14-game slate. There's some stuff we can't talk about everything, obviously. If there's somebody you're thinking about, ask us about that person or a stack you may like, or just a strategy question, or this guy or that guy. We'll knock those questions out end of the show. Before we go around the horn, I like it better this way, Will. You tell me. But let's talk about our favorite stacks, and that'll sort of like outline where our plays are going to be when we go around the horn.
Yeah, so for me, number 1 on my list today is the Texas Rangers. Just combination of upside and price. Based on how I want to approach this slate, I really like them. Number 2 is going to be the Cincinnati Reds. I like that matchup for them as well. And look, guys, and I'm not looking at the chat, but I feel like I know how the chat thinks. I'm not overlooking Philly. Clearly, Philly's one of the top stacks on the slate. I'm trying to give you guys stacks that maybe other people aren't thinking about, right? So clearly, Philly's on the list. The weather's in their favor. Arrieta's in their favor. So I'm trying to give you some stacks that maybe aren't going to be as popular. So that's where I'm at there. I think my last stack, and this stack came in a little bit more popular than I assumed, but I do like the Orioles again today. Pretty good weather there. We're going to see what's going on with Steven Matz, right? He came off the COVID list, and I think was struggling a little bit, which is normal, right? We've seen it with across all sports: basketball, football, baseball. Cam came off COVID, had some issues. Chris Paul came off, of course he had a hurt wrist, had some issues. Steven Matz came off, had some issues. For that reason alone, I do want to attack him with some Baltimore bats, especially Ryan Mountcastle, and I'll get into some numbers on him later on, but he's one of my favorites. And then the Atlanta Braves. So those are my kind of, I guess that's what, 4 or 5 stacks. That's kind of my I don't want to say off the wall, but slightly different than what I feel like is going to happen with Toronto and Philly.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto, it's hot in Baltimore. It's a great ballpark. They're facing Spencer Watkins, who they called up from the minors. He wasn't doing great in the minors. He's not a prospect. He's, I think, 29 years old. He throws like 92 miles per hour. And the bullpen there in Baltimore is not good either. So the Toronto side is really, really good. It's also a hitter's umpire. Yeah, that's you said like you're going to give stuff that people, other people wouldn't necessarily get. There's like the one that's the lead. That's on the marquee. The Blue Jays tonight, Philadelphia against Arrieta in a good weather situation, and they're all really cheap for the most part, with the exception of a couple of players. I would just add, the only one I would add there is the Yankees. People don't want to put the Yankees outside of Yankee Stadium. They're on the West Coast. The lineup, I presume, is not just.
We talked about that last. I said I like that call. Talked about that last night a little bit on the morning grind, but yeah, the Yankees for sure. Love that call, Dean. That could be a special one.
Yeah, I mean, and Sheffield is just, he was a prospect, and at what point is he no longer a prospect? But it's just not happening. Just no strikeout ability this season. 17.2%, walks too many guys, 9.7%. I know the Yankees have been massively disappointing many times, and I'm not even certain how good some of the Yankee guys are. They're just kind of names, but Judge and Stanton and Sanchez and Voit, there's a lot of power there, a lot of righty power lurking for Sheffield, and I think they're going to be mostly neglected on this slate because of the aforementioned Toronto and Philadelphia. It's a 14-gamer, and obviously the ownership's going to be spread out to some degree. Let's quickly go around the horn. Let's do this fast because I want to get as many questions as possible from the chat. Chat, start loading up some questions. Devin, producer extraordinaire, will be joining the show lately at the end. And we'll see how long this takes. He'll be joining the show, and he'll be firing off those questions. We'll happily answer them for you. But the catcher position, well, on DK, how do you not play JT Realmuto? That's just too cheap, right?
Yeah, very cheap today, Dean. 3,700. I do like Stevenson in the 2-hole today. Against Mr. Bubbage at 4,100. He's a guy that I like a lot. And then if we're going all the way to the bottom of the order, I don't hate Mr. McGuire at 3,300. He's in the 9 spot, but he's a guy that I definitely want to get some exposure to as well.
I just took a peek at the chat, and everybody's upset about the Yankees, and I get it. We've all stacked the Yankees, and I didn't stack them the one night that rule I just gave earlier. I was too late in that rule when they went off against Ohtani. I was on Ohtani basically too much that evening. Anything else of note as far as catchers? I would say Yan Gomes is a little bit too cheap on DK at 2.8K. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to cover everybody. We've got, you got guys you can play. I'm just kind of trying to give some guys that I like. And move it along from there.
So Vladdy plays first base, first and third on FanDuel, I believe. He's 6'2" on DK. It's hard to get him. You can make it happen for sure. How much are you prioritizing Vladdy tonight?
Not much, just because I think he's going to be one of the more popular players. So it's got nothing against Vlad, man. It's got everything to do with, my approach for this slate. And so at first base, Trey Mancini's on my list. Nate Lowe is on my list. Mountcastle is on my list. Those are the guys that I'm interested in playing today.
Yeah, I guess it's a good time to mention pull up the old play IQ when we talk about Urania, talk about the Texas. Both of us like Texas today. Specifically, I imagine it's the lefties.
Oh, yeah.
Urania this year versus left-handers, he's faced 164 left-handers, an ISO of 200, a WOBA of 378. That's both dreadful. But if you want to key in on one thing, the strikeouts at 7.3%, 7.3%. And this is kind of like, oh, wait, Joey Gallo's lurking too, right? We'll talk about him. He always strike out, but when he doesn't strike out, what does he do? And he's probably not going to strike out. So there you go. And he's also walking 9.8% of guys too, which is that's also too much. Will, what else do you have here as far as first base? Who else is popping for you?
No, we're good, man. Like I said, we're trying to make it quick. I'm going to give the guys that I like the most and moving on down the road, man.
What about your guy, Freddie? Did you go to the game? Or weren't you in Atlanta this weekend?
Oh, yeah, man. That fun game. Came back in the ninth. I mean, Abraham Almonte comes up to the plate. The whole crowd's cheering. Man, it was fantastic, D. I had an exceptional time, but it's not like I haven't gone to a Braves game before. I've gone, but, it's always good to go to a fun one. And this was really fun. This is my first time actually seeing Charlie Morton pitch in person. And I think I mentioned this on the pod as well, but man, Charlie Morton can pitch. But it looks exactly like you would think. He's going to have these moments where you're like, geez. I mean, he's throwing 97 on Sunday, and then he just has a meltdown. And that's Charlie Morton, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice ballpark there in Atlanta. Did you go?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it.
Did you go on the deal where you hold? What is it? Why can't I think of the term? The thing you go like from one. What's the thing where you
zip
hold on?
Zip lining?
Zip line. There you go.
I did not zip line. I was in a suite, so I just went in there and had a good time.
What's the guy's name? The Flash? Is that his name? What's the guy that runs the field? The Flash? Something like that. It's like the Flash or the guy, the sprinter.
I know what you're talking about, but they didn't do that Sunday. They had like mascot racing, and it was so funny. One of the best parts of the day, anyway. But anyway, yeah. Enough about that game, Dean. They just lost to Pittsburgh. That game's out of my mind.
That was the Max Fried game. I think you saw Max Fried walk off base.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it was.
So DK's forcing you on Gene Segura because he's 3.3K, right? Like, how do you not play Gene Segura today? And this is an optimal perspective, not a tournament necessarily, but leading off on the road there versus Arrieta. And then you can spend up on Albies. You can spend up on Semien. DJ LeMahieu, one of the Yankees, kind of pricey, but should be on the road leading off. In India, I assume that's where you're going to land because you talked about the Reds.
Man, India is my guy. I like guys that don't strike out and can get on base and steal, Dean. They just feel so valuable to me, and so India is definitely a guy that I'm going to be loading up on. But Segura at 3,300, clearly, in my opinion, probably the best value at second base for the matchup and the weather conditions. I like India because I'm going to be building it into my stack, but clearly, I mean, Gene Segura, cream of the crop today, I think, in terms of who you should play, especially in cash games on today's slate.
I knew there was a reason why he's not called the Flash. There's a copyright reason. Thank you. The Freeze. Thank you, chat. That's his name. I saw him lose. That's why it was in my head. I saw the guy actually lost, which never happens. He gave a big head start, though. That's how that works. Third base, hot corner. Who are you prioritizing? Are we back on Suarez? Who's been mostly disappointing.
Oh yeah. It's Suarez. Something else. Maikel Franco, 3,500. I've been talking about Baltimore. He's a guy I'm going to have. Brock Holt in the one hole, 3,200. Lefty on Urania. He's another guy I don't mind as well. Those are going to be my main third baseman. Suarez, Franco, Brock Holt.
Well, cross Franco off your list. He's not playing baseball today.
Oh, he's not?
Well, he's not starting the game. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Dean.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I'm sorry about that. I was just, I
good.
clicked the teams on DraftKings. They had him in the sixth spot. And shame on me for not looking at the real deal, the starting lineups page on Rotogrinders. That's all on me. Egg on my face.
At the risk of sounding like a shill, that's what I use. I use the RG starting lineups page, and then
I do as well. But once we're in here, I try to I figure they have it right, so I just try to go ahead and click on the position tab and filter the teams that I'm playing the most, and that way I can give them out. But yep, egg on my face, Dean. Just terrible.
I like Bijou as well at 4.3K. Big shock. I'm liking one of the Toronto guys. Just the entire Toronto lineup for me is in play. I want to say 1 through 8 because now Reese McGuire is going to hit 2 home runs, but that's the entire team that looks really, really well positioned today against Baltimore. Anything else you want to say at third, or do you want to jump to shortstop?
I don't hate Austin Riley. I am on the Braves today as well. I know I haven't been talking about them as much, so sorry about that as well, chat. But I do like Austin Riley, 4,204. He's definitely a guy that I'm on. One of the more affordable Braves because you got Freeman and Albies, but man, that big 5K price tag that's asking a lot on this slate, I think.
Shortstop, again, DK is kind of pointing in the direction of Philadelphia, unfortunately, because Didi Gregorius is 3.6K, and I just think that build's going to be so clear, and I think it's going to be potential ownership issues. Of course, if like he homers, who cares? Scoreboard. How do I get away from the chalk? And again, do I prioritize Tatis? We live in the world of a salary cap. I'm not sure if I can pay for him. Incredible catch last night. You don't get any fantasy points for it. I don't know if you saw that catch he had last night in the field, but it's pretty awesome. It's worth checking out. Trey Turner is awesome, but now he's 6.4K. I thought he wasn't going to play last night. They said midweek. Monday's not midweek, but hey, he came back and banged out a homer right away. What are you doing as far as shortstop?
Yeah, Trey Turner's definitely on my list. He looks good today in terms of home run potential, but he's just one off. I'm not stacking Washington today. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, not in the 9 hole, but I mean, being able to come back around against Urania is a big deal today, I think. I mean, he could easily score 2 or 3 runs here against Detroit in his bullpen. So I like him. You talked about Didi, definitely cream of the crop there. Ramon Urias. Listen, I like Baltimore, so he's a guy with squeeze in. I think he's a guy that can put some points up today. But yeah, that's mainly it. Dansby Swanson, 4,200. The cheaper Braves I really like a lot.
Potential punts that I don't hate is Lux is at 2.8. I just like the talent. I don't really want to pick on Lopez, but 2.8 for Lux just seems too cheap for me. If you need a punt, like that's actually a really decent player. There's one other one that I thought that was kind of sort of somewhat interesting. Rojas leading off versus Gray at 3.3. That just seems a tick too cheap if you need a punt. Let's jump to the outfield. I think it's pretty clear. Like the two, obviously, baseball goofy things happen, but like before the game start, the two best position plays are Joey Gallo and Bryce Harper, and then the Blue Jays, right? And then maybe
I love those calls. Love those calls, Dean. I mean, I think everybody's going to be in on those guys. Don't forget about my guy Nicky Casty, batting in the 5,700, a little bit more expensive than both of those guys. On DK, it's a little bit harder to get to. It's 4K on FanDuel, so I don't hate it there. I will say this. Adolis Garcia. I know it's not lefty-righty, but has this guy not been electric? 20 home runs on the season, 58 RBIs. I think if we're building Texas stacks, we need to find a way to just get him in there. I think he can still put up a big number. And then outside of that, I talked about these guys from Baltimore, and I did want to give out some stats here. But Santander and Mountcastle just look fantastic today, Dean, in terms of the potential versus Steven Matz here, a guy that's going to be mostly throwing sinker to the right side of the plate. And so when you pull up these numbers, you've got Anthony Santander. Listen, Dean, 424 ISO, 50% hard hit rate, average hit distance of 346 feet, 83% contact rate. And then you got Mountcastle not far behind, 600 ISO, 55% hard hit rate, average exit velocity of 97 miles per hour, average hit distance of 348, and sitting at a 78% contact rate on the sinker. Really excited about those two bats. I love Trey Mancini as well, don't get me wrong. But in terms of sinker production, Mountcastle and Santander look fantastic. Those are two guys I love from Baltimore today.
In terms of price, I like that Hayes price at 3K in the 2-hole. Pretty good price.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Yep.
Anything else of note as far let's just turn it over to the chat. I'm sure Devin's got a bunch of questions compiled for us, and we always seem to cut those short and kind of spread to the last few minutes or so. But I've said enough words to give Devin a chance to transition and pop on seamlessly and say hello.
I was ready. I was champing at the bit, Dean.
Champing or chomping?
It's champing, believe it or not. I was schooled on this recently.
Did you crowbar that in? Did you know I was gonna bite?
I actually didn't know. I was just trying to flex on the fact that I'm now correct. I know how to say that correctly. Now that I got
brain of bread. All right. You have some questions for us?
I do. I have a lot. So James was asking for favorite stacks. Will, I think you said Texas and Cincinnati with Philly. Dean, do you have any others?
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Philly too, and everybody likes Philly tonight. That's like I'm not breaking news. Toronto's great if you can get him in. It's kind of tricky because of salary cap reasons, possible DeGrom reasons, but if DeGrom, we lose him, then all of a sudden Toronto opens up more. And I would say if there's, Texas, if there's a sneaky one, if the Yankees can be sneaky, they're my sneaky one.
And while we're on the subject, Roth had a recent tweet. Says, best guess in New York, late start definitely happening. First pitch around 8:30. Pop-ups fire around 10-ish. Might hit the park, might miss. No way to know, unfortunately.
Well, he's got an hour and a half to work, DeGrom. Is that what I'm hearing?
It seems like it currently, but the late start definitely happening, so probably be aware, be ready for that to happen.
You want to hear late start. Like, yeah,
right.
don't be scared. I don't want to play the role of Roth, but in my brain I'm hearing I want to hear late start.
All right. And there, just as I was saying it, he has another update. To be clear, a lot can go wrong with that, including them not even trying to PPD it, so DeGrom isn't weather interrupted. The key word is guess. Tune into Crunch Time. He'll be giving us some updates. Up-to-date update, right, Dean?
There you go.
Let's get to some stack games. We'll just bounce between the two of you, 1 through 5.
Let's do it.
Will, Detroit.
0.
Dean?
I mean, I'll at least give it the respect of a 1.
I do love that we had both an and a 0. Just so we're clear, that's a 0. Cubs, any thoughts? Dean?
No, I mean 1.5. I'm not in on it.
All right. Will looks like the same.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, we're supposed to be bouncing back and forth.
That's all good.
Shame on me, Devin.
That's all good. Dodgers, Will.
2.
Same.
All right. Padres.
I would say a 3. Jeffrey Rodriguez, come on. I would say 3.
I'm at a 4 on the Padres for sure.
All right. Getting somewhere. Yankees.
3.75. Whoa, 5.
I'm going 5 on the Yankees, man. Sheffield is not good.
And the Giants. We were talking about that park earlier.
I'm at a 2 on the Giants today. I feel like Wainwright, he can just limit the damage so much. I can't do it.
I throw my hands up. I'll say a 2.25. I'm probably not in on them. Like, I don't see myself landing there.
And this is a sort of related question, so we'll kind of fit this one in. Darren was asking favorite mini stacks on FanDuel. So if you were maybe one or two.
I'll cover that. So if we're doing mini stacks, then I do think you should have some Atlanta, like Atlanta mini stacks. Baltimore is probably my favorite mini stack, and I made full stack Baltimore, but I'm saying like a little 3-man. Sure. I like that. I think, hear me out, a 3-man Houston stack to get different against Bassett, just because they don't strike out, mainly the lefties. Brantley, Alvarez, Tucker, 2-4-6. I don't hate that. And then, that's it in terms of, a little bit of Washington mini stack. But that's about it. Everything else, I'm full stacking.
All right, and we have a bunch of questions left, but not a ton of time, so we're going to summarize a little bit here. Put your thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you're into this pitcher. Urena.
Down.
Cueto.
Down.
All right, Gonsolin.
Down.
Valdez.
Up.
Dean's working with both here. Barrios.
Well, yeah, that's like 1.5 thumbs.
Down on Barrios.
And someone was actually specifically asking, Chief, your thoughts for Rodon and Eovaldi. I know we touched on Eovaldi.
Oh, yeah. I like both of those guys. I just don't like the prices. The price on Rodon is fine. I don't like the price on Eovaldi, but my assumption is this lineup in LA is going to be semi-bad, so I'm in on Eovaldi.
Looks like Otani's hitting. Fletcher, Otani, Walsh, Gonsolin, Stassi, Iglesias, Lagares, Rengifo, Rojas.
And here we'll end on this one. T asks, I'll smash the like button if Dean can answer this QQ. Who's your guy?
Oh, who is my guy tonight? Yeah, you think it'd be easy. There's a lot I like.
There's a lot to choose from.
Let me pull up my rankings. Who is my guy tonight?
While you're thinking about that, did you guys see that video of Otani hitting a home run back from I think it was like 2016? He hit a home run through the stadium roof.
No.
Yeah, it was some video that popped up on my timeline, and the announcers were like, "What just happened?" They were losing it. It was great.
I'll go off the board a little bit, and say Biggio. I don't be super obvious.
Wow,
but I'll say Cavan Biggio.
GPP winner. Will?
I mean, it's a 6-hole guy. He's not the sexiest.
I like these guys from Baltimore, so I'm gonna go there. I mean, some of these other guys like automatic, like Nick Castellanos. If you look at the numbers, they look good. I'm trying to give you off the board. So Mountcastle's at the top of my list for like just weird one-off GPP home run plays.
And I guess, yeah, we'll let those serve for our home run picks there. Mike asking for home run picks. Dean, you want to take us home?
I'll add a couple more. Just that you got to get a couple shots in. So like if you hit one, they don't remember the losers.
There you go, buckshot.
Yeah, Nate Lowe. I'll throw Nate Lowe into the conversation. Lefty power there, especially on FanDuel as far as the price. DK price is fine too. If you want something like cheap that can take out a homer, how about Jesus Sanchez for the Marlins? There, that's way off the board for the people. Yeah, crunch time is up next. Again, you'll get Roth telling you what's going on as far as the Mets. He'll probably be stressed out, and hopefully by 7:00 we'll get a clear picture, and we'll probably get a delay at the time as well. But if you guys want to be a premium member, get yourself $10 off the first month. That's how you get access to Crunch Time. STL cards will be on it as well. In addition to, who is the third person? I don't
Derek
recall
Carty.
that,
Derek Carty.
Derek Carty. There you go. CEO of the Bat. Carty's going to be on there as well. That said, we're up against the clock. We got to step aside. We do appreciate you guys asking questions. Makes the show more fun. And all we ask in return is just to hit that like button. There you go. Super easy. Takes 1 second. This was baseball. That was Devin producing. Thank you, Devin. That was Will. I was Dean. We're out of here. Oh!